Hello and welcome to another Craft and Chat. If you are new here, my name is Becca and you're very welcome to my slightly echoey conservatory here in West Wales. So what am I working on today? Well, this was my favourite shirt, but it's in holes, so I'm going to unpick it and use it as a pattern to make a new shirt. That's what the plan is anyway. So I thought, as it's a bit of a kind of tedious job, it would be fun just to kind of chat away and do it while I'm chatting. Got a few things on the desk. On the desk, it's not a desk, it's a table. On the table, it's actually the dining room table. So I've got a few things on the dining room table which I will share in due course. And I have half drunk cup of going cold coffee because my coffee is always going cold. So it's always good to know what you're working on, so just drop a comment below, let me know what you're up to. So I sort of said in one of my last videos that I'd really ground to a halt with my sewing, and I sort of had really, and I was trying to learn to quilt, to do patchwork and to quilt, and I had a couple of things that I'd done that had kind of gone quite well. And then I get really into my spinning in the winter, so I wasn't really as into the sewing over the winter. Certainly kind of back end of the winter after Christmas, I was really kind of focused on the spinning. So the sewing sort of took a bit of a back seat, but I am determined that I am going to find my sewing mojo, because I used to sew all the time. I mean, right into my mid-20s, I was making a good proportion of my own clothes. And, you know, just life gets in the way and got busy with jobs, and so, you know, I stopped doing it. And I am heartily sick of buying clothes that fall apart. And it doesn't seem to matter how much you spend on them. I mean, not that I spend an awful lot, as is fairly self-evident, but, you know, even when you buy them new, because I buy a lot of secondhand from the charity shop, thrift shop, op shop, depending on where you are in the world, I buy a lot of my clothes secondhand, and, you know, okay, they wear out. But I also buy a lot of clothes that are kind of new but secondhand, if that makes sense. So somebody bought them, didn't wear them, not going to wear them, so they put them for sale. And where am I going to put these buttons? Let's put these buttons in this pot. And yeah, so I kind of do that, and they don't last either. And you know, I buy some what I think are quite nice brands, sort of sea salt and things like that. And actually, I have to say, the sea salt stuff, if it's a bit older, it does last. But some of, you know, like M&S, it don't last like it used to. I sound like I'm 300 years old now. I'm actually going to have to put my specs on because I can't really see what I'm doing. Yeah, so I thought I would have a little chat and just do some unpicking. I have spent most of this morning doing really thrilling things like working on Metadata, which is all kind of search engine optimization, which I have to tell you is even more boring than it sounds. And the reason I have done that is because I have sort of reopened, or I'm in the process of reopening, my Spoonflower fabric shop, because I also thought it would be rather fun to actually make my clothes out of fabric that I had designed. And I thought I'd also offer some for sale, because, you know, why not? You know, as I say virtually every week, I think, I don't need to make a fortune, but it's just nice to have a little bit of extra coming in, so I don't have to worry about going to the garden centre and having a splurge, which is sort of what I'm about to do for the next few days, because we want to get some spring bedding and some various things for the summer. So yeah, I'm going to have a bit of a splurge at the garden centre, and I really don't want to feel guilty about it. Right, Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unpick the main seams. And I know there is a way that you don't have to unpick and you can kind of lay it out, but because this is fitted and it has darts and it actually fits me quite well, then I do want to get a pretty accurate kind of pattern reproduction. And this is, yeah, this is Marks and Sparks. And I am taking the buttons off because I'm going to reuse the buttons. So I have got some new, or new to me, linen fabric, but whether I've got enough for the shirt, oh, this is going to be a pain, isn't it? Oh, they're so small, I can't see the way I used to. Yeah, so whether I've got enough, I don't know. I might have to do a little bit of patchwork, which brings me on to my book that has been sat on my shelf for about 3 years, not being read. How to Sew Sustainably by Wendy Ward. And she has a whole section on sort of doing patchwork to make yourself enough fabric. So with some of this I probably can reuse, plus I've got some linen in my quite meagre stash. I'm trying really hard not to have a massive stash. Someone was very kind and wrote to me and offered me some of their stash, and I did actually turn it down because I'm so limited on space. It gets all a bit overwhelming if I have too much stuff, and I'm having a big clear out of stuff at the moment because I can't think straight when there is too much clutter around, and there is too much clutter around. And I mean, look at it. Is this in shot? I've just pulled out 10 years, actually this is all of it, 10 years worth of sketchbooks. And I'm going to talk about those in a minute. But yeah, so I have to be a little cautious about buying too much stuff, because as you well know, I do like to go on a bit of a thrift hunt, but if it comes in the house, something else has to go out. And a little bit too much has come in without enough stuff going out. I am really struggling to unpick this. Maybe this was not such a good idea. Overlockers. Oh, they are the bane of the unpicker's life, I think. I don't think this is going to take me the 20 minutes I thought it was going to take me. I thought, oh, with my seam ripper, my quick unpick, it'll be done in no time. But because I actually want to make sure I'm getting enough seam allowance and I'm getting the darts in the right place, I actually want to unpick this quite carefully. I'm gonna have to take my time. Now I'm really hoping that you can't hear the occasional bit of beeping in the background, because the carbon monoxide detector that we have in the house decided that it was going to have a fault and is beeping. I have ordered a new one which is arriving today, and I don't quite know how to stop it from beeping without actually hitting it with a hammer. And I thought I probably wouldn't hit it with a hammer until the new one arrived. So if you can hear some random beeping, that's what it is. I sort of have wrapped it under things, and we haven't got the fire lit, so we are not in danger of carbon monoxide poisoning. And we don't have central heating, we don't have gas. Well, we do have gas, we have colour gas, which is for the cooking on top. What am I trying to say? For the hob. There you go, for the hob. Yeah, this is going to go quite slowly, isn't it? But I guess that's okay. It's a way of sort of, calming the old brain, because as I said, I have been just trying to get to grips with writing descriptions and tags and titles. And one of the things you have to do when you're selling on print on demand, and obviously I'm very used to selling on print on demand websites because I sell on Zazzle, but you really have to get searchable titles. So your titles have to align with something that people are actually searching for. So as you might want to give a fabric collection a nice fancy name, and particularly, you know, if it's sort of all arty. I don't know whether any of my designs are arty. I know a few of them are a little bit arty. And yeah, so you can't call them arty names. You have to call them sensible names that people are actually searching for. And yeah, I'm just kind of been looking at the computer too long. I'm just like going a bit stir crazy. So it's like, oh, come and do something that's kind of a bit slower and not looking at the screen. And I thought, well, I really need to record a video because it's that time of the week and I'm not doing any spinning, and I still have a big box of fleece to unpack that I haven't unpacked because I need to do it when I'm going to have a few dry days in a row, and it has been quite wet. It's dry today. I also need to go and inspect the bees, but it's far too windy to do that today. I would have done that today otherwise if it hadn't been quite as windy. But 20-mile-an-hour winds are not conducive to taking the lid off beehives. So that is a job for tomorrow. So what else was I going to talk to you about? Oh yes, I was going to talk to you about making patterns. I have been whittering on about making fabric and making patterns for quite a while, and I sort of said to myself, oh, you haven't got time for it, you can't do it. And I was like, you know what, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? I shall be 55 this year, and it's something I've wanted to do for a very long time. And I know how to make repeating patterns. I have the software that you need to do it. I do actually know how to write titles and tags and how to do print on demand. So I should actually go on and do it. And I have been sort of, in my sketchbooks, I draw lots of very random things. So I have kind of a couple of styles. I have my sort of watercolours that are all very sort of delicate. And, you know, I'm not sure that that's really suitable for a fabric, but, you know, that I have that style. And then I have this sort of mad scribbly style, which actually I think is quite nice for fabric. And I just kind of spend, you know, when I'm messing about, when I'm messing about, I just get all the art supplies out and just play and make fabric designs that I then do absolutely nothing with. So I sort of thought, you know what, it's really time I did something with them. And as I said, I have tons and tons and tons of this, there you go, of artwork that potentially could be fabric design or elements of fabric design. And I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of it. Some of it is better than others, but you know, that's just because sometimes I'm not really feeling like being very precise and slowly putting on layers of watercolour and letting it dry before I then sort of carry on with the next thing, because you have to do that quite slowly. And other days, as I say, I just want to kind of scribble and play. And also I have been designing digitally recently as well. I'm a bit newer to that. I'm not sure about it really. I'm quite an analogue sort of person. There are some huge advantages to it in fabric design because it means you can recolour and resize things really, really easily. So I might just persevere with it a little bit. Right. So I know if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, then you're obviously in autumn going into winter, so you probably do want to do quite a lot of spinning and working with wool. But because I'm in the Northern Hemisphere and we're in sort of in spring, I'm going into, well, not quite going into summer, we're in spring, aren't we? I sort of, I'm not feeling the urge to be playing with wool quite as much, which did happen last year, which is how I ended up with sort of sewing and cooking and all sorts of other things on the channel that I know people liked. I do know that. But, and I've said this before, you are kind of at the mercy of the algorithm, and it's very confusing to a computer algorithm when you go, one minute you're spinning wool and the next minute you're going thrifting, then you're going for a walk, and so yeah. I mean, I am always going to post about fibre arts and hand spinning because I've been doing it for 20 years. Well, not quite 20 years, but I've been doing it for nearly 20 years. I'm not about to stop anytime soon. But I know, I know that's not why everybody's here. Right. Oh, now this is where it's falling apart, so I'm going to have to be quite careful because I actually want the original shape, so I sort of want to pick it apart quite carefully. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know why I thought this was going to be quick. Why did I think this was going to be quick? So as ever, if there is anything in particular that you'd like to see on the channel, please let me know. I can't promise that it will be, but I will do my best. I know some people have asked to see Andrew's photographs. I'm going to think about a way of how we can do that because, as I say a lot, he doesn't particularly want to be in the videos. He doesn't mind sort of being in the background or, being in shot, but he doesn't really want to start having a great big involvement. I'd love him to have more of an involvement. It would be fun, but, he's got his thing, which is photography, and he doesn't always want to share that either. He's got certain things he likes to share, but not everything. So Millie is being very quiet at the moment, but that can change at any moment because I've got my delivery coming at some point today, and as soon as she hears the delivery van, she will be on it. And as I have said before, that I do not mind. That is her job. No one would ever sneak up on us. There are a few other dogs in the neighbourhood, and if the wind is in a certain direction, then the sound really carries. And it's a pretty windy day, so you might well hear other dogs barking, but not my dog. She is not barking at the moment. Right, I'm just going to check and see how long I've been waffling on for. Well, that is 20 minutes worth of me waffling. I try not to make the videos too long. I try to make them between sort of 20 minutes and half an hour. It just, otherwise it just gets crazy. Particularly when I'm not really doing anything action-packed. I'm just sat here chatting, and I could sit here chatting for hours, but I don't think that's a very entertaining video, and I still can't see what I'm doing. So you may see in the background that the apple trees are in full flower and the magnolia out the front is looking magnificent. And my plan is that I will do a garden tour, plus we will go to the garden centre sometime this week. So I will share a bit more of that. And so right on cue, the delivery arrived and Millie started barking, of course. And we now have a new carbon monoxide poisoning detector thing. So we hopefully will not now be at risk of not knowing we were being poisoned by carbon monoxide. I don't think there was a lot of risk of that because this is a house with lots of windows and it's not particularly well sealed. So yeah, we probably weren't at a huge amount of risk, but now we're at no risk. And I can now dispatch the old one that's going mad. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there and I hopefully will be back sometime at the weekend, probably Sunday, with a trip to the garden centre.